So, one of the largest studies regarding the efficiency of masks, specifically for COVID, has reached the conclusion that no, it does not help at all. That's basically what this study has concluded. And this is the reply from Tony Fauci regarding that.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, he of course is the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Fauci, nice to have you back. How worried are you that people will not follow advice to wear masks if we get to that?
Well, Michael, that's a very good question. As you said, if we get to that, I mean, we're starting to see a surge of cases, as you mentioned.
This guy.
About an 18 or 19% increase in hospitalizations, certainly going in the wrong direction with looks like a late summer and into the fall surge. How bad it's going to get, we don't know. As you know, this is a very unpredictable.
Why hasn't this man been arrested yet?
Predictable virus has shown us that over the last 3.5 years. I am concerned that people will not abide by recommendations. And we're not talking about mandates or forcing anybody, but when you have a situation where the volume
what a
of cases
scumbag
in society gets to a reasonably high level, particularly the vulnerable, those who are elderly and those with underlying conditions, are going to be more susceptible and vulnerable if they do get infected to get severe disease leading to hospitalization. We know that. That's a fact. We've seen that. So I would hope that if in fact we get to the point where the volume of cases is such and organizations like the CDC recommend, CDC doesn't mandate anything. I mean, recommend.
Oh, you're full of shit.
That people wear masks. I would hope that they abide by the recommendation and take into account the risk to themselves and to their families. And again, we're not talking about forcing anybody to do anything.
Totally understood. There is a perception out there.
What a sociopath, what a psychopath of a man. It's just a recommendation, but, oh, dear God, if you don't follow our recommendation. No, when you're forcing people to do something because they're losing their jobs, because they cannot go places, buy things they need to live, go on with their lives, it's no longer a recommendation, Fauci. You're forcing people to do this. If you leave people without a job, if they don't comply, you're forcing them to do that. Okay, there's people that even get arrested over it. So what a liar, what a piece of human shit this man is.
There by many, how many I don't know, that they don't work, and that the data concludes that they didn't work in the first go round. Respond to that on masks.
Yeah, well, that's not so. I mean, when you're talking about at the population level, that the
go round.
Let's watch that again.
And that the data perception out there by many, how many I don't know, that they don't work. And that the data concludes that they didn't work in the first go-round. Respond to that on masks.
Yeah, well, that's not so. I mean, when you're talking about at the population level, that the data are less strong than knowing that if you look on a situation as an individual protecting themselves or protecting them from spreading it, there's no doubt that masks work. Different studies give different percentages of advantage of wearing it. But there's no doubt that the weight of the studies, and there have been many studies, indicate the benefit of wearing masks.
He's just saying the opposite. The man is explaining to this creep that no, that the studies conclude, most of the more thorough, largest studies conclude that no, it doesn't change, especially for this kind of thing. And Fauci says on the individual level is also called anecdotal data. One single person is not a measure of anything, Tony. I mean, aren't you a scientist, a doctor, or whatever the hell you're supposed to be, besides being a...
I'm going to refer to one of them. You've heard about it before. I heard about it from a number of radio callers. Brett Stevens in The Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. The most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference. He told the journalist Mayan Damasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review.
Look at the face. Look at the guy's face. He's being called out. The largest study ever confirms what we all knew all along.
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual. When you're talking
at an individual level for individuals, it doesn't matter. The individual makes no difference when you're making public policy for the entire population, Tony. You know that. He is a hypocrite. He is a liar. He should be in jail. Masks, guys, masks work. Masks work for the things that they're supposed to work. A surgical mask works perfectly for your dentist so as to not spit inside your mouth when he's fixing a cavity. A gas mask, an NBC mask like the one I have, works for a number of things. Yes, including this stuff. As long as it's worn properly, as long as you're cleanly shaved, and there's still a risk factor because nothing is 100% perfect, but there's specific gear, specific equipment for different things. The idea that a surgical mask or even an N95 mask, given how contagious this is, will make any difference at a population scale, it is beyond insane. He knows that, but he's a psychopath. He is lying. He is lying to people. He's been lying all along, and he's so shameless. He has no shame left whatsoever. He just keeps on lying to your face.
About the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong. But when you talk about
less strong, no, it says it doesn't work. That's not less strong. It says it does not work for what you were saying it does. Because it's obvious. Because none of that stuff is designed for that, made for that. The manufacturer never claimed, never has any manufacturer of any surgical mask said it works for, keeping you safe from a virus. How could they if it's not made for that? And the people that know what they're talking about, which would be in my case, I will be the first one to tell you that even if you have the adequate mask with the adequate filters, it needs to go along with a certain protocol. You need to know how to use these things. You need to be very cleanly shaved. You need a mask that specifically fits your shape of a face, your head. There's different sizes of masks, and you actually do testing. For example, with my mask, the GSR mask that I often showed in videos, when I wear that, not even perfume or aerosol, you can actually try that yourself. Put on a mask, whatever you think is keeping you safe. If you're still deranged to think that whatever you're wearing it works, put on whatever you think it works. Throw a little bit of deodorant. If you can smell the deodorant, it means that it's not filtering fogs. It's not filtering the kind of thing that will get you infected with said virus, okay? So that's how it works. And the lies that we've been told, well, they're just spreading them again without any shame whatsoever. Guys, that's going to be all for now. Remember, if you want to learn more about survival and preparedness, I highly recommend Surviving the Economic Collapse, Street Survival Skills, my books regarding survival and preparedness, specifically for the economic aspect and for the practical aspect of surviving when things go wrong. See you on our next video. Take care.